Just a couple of thoughts I'd like to share with you. First of all, Eileen, thanks for the ICAN organization, your leadership, and for all of you here who support such a great program, a real gem to our community. Appreciate that. To the speakers and the audience, I'm just going to say, I'm sitting over there taking notes. I'm a writer. Just do everything they have said. We'll be better for it. Great job. You know, I think the most important title that we all share in life is the same title. And it's the most important one we have. We're the CEO of Me, Inc. And when you think about your brand, what do you want the brand of which you're the CEO to be viewed as? And when I began to think about that in my life, it really changed how I viewed things. Emily Austin taught me the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. It's just that little extra. And she would say to me, whenever you're doing something, ask yourself, or you're contemplating something, what would the ordinary person do? And then she would say, follow that up with the next question. What would the extraordinary person do? And so when I began tying the ordinary and the extraordinary and being the CEO of Me, Inc., I began to realize that I just simply needed to give myself permission, psychological permission to believe. And then I remember, some of us would remember probably the first inductee class of the Omaha Business Hall of Fame. It included a gentleman who ran ConAgra at the time by the name of Mike Harper. And Mike's acceptance speech really resonated with me when he said, people ask me, and I don't know how many of you know Mike, but what an extraordinarily talented person, led a Fortune 500 company that was based in Omaha, but he had some health limitations. And I admired ConAgra and their board for elevating him to the role they elevated him because they knew his talent. And they overlooked perhaps some things that might have been distracting to other people, but he would be asked, how did you get here? Give us a recipe. And his answer was at this speech was, I had 2 huge breaks given to me in my life, and they happened on the same day. And believe it or not, the Census Bureau tracks these sorts of things. He went back and tracked it and found out, I believe it was February 27th, 1927. He said, that was the day I got my first 2 huge breaks that had more to do with me being inducted tonight than anything else I've done. And huge break number 1 was I was born with a reasonable mind, body, and soul. I didn't go to school for it, didn't work for it, didn't earn it. It was given to me. And huge break number 2 was I was born in what I believe, this is Mr. Harper, I was born what I believe is the greatest stage in the world, and that's the stage of the United States of America. And so he went back and asked, of all the people that were born that day, how many were born in America? And he found out for 1 out of every 79 babies, the odds were 1 out of 79 were born in the United States. So when I began to think about, and what he said was, if you get 2 huge breaks like that, think of a track and field, if you will. And he said, isn't it kind of the equivalent of, if the finish line is about 5 yards away from this huge oval track, if you're given those 2 breaks in life, isn't that the equivalent of the big guy kind of setting you about 5 yards from the finish line and saying, can you take it in from here? And that shaped his mentality and his approach to life. It certainly influenced mine. You know, we believe, and I believe, that everyone wants to make an impact. Everyone wants to make a difference, be successful. I just don't know very many people that don't. Where I think people are challenged with how do we be successful? How do you do it? I go back to, have you given yourself permission to be successful? To believe in yourself that you can be. So we created what we call an uncommon leadership playbook. And everyone needs to put their own fingerprints on how they march forward. But we do give them guidelines. And in this playbook, we got 7 or 8 key themes, if you will. And then there's self-tests that they can administer on their own, so they can score themselves and how they're doing. So they have a sense of what does success look like. And then how they go about doing it, of course, they're drawn upon their own great gifts. One of the things that was given to me early on was a little pamphlet. And it was called The Common Denominator of Success. And in that pamphlet, to kind of condense it real shortly, basically the message of the pamphlet was this: successful people merely do those things that others aren't willing to do. And I started tying that to extraordinary and ordinary. And what do successful people do that others aren't willing to do? They try harder, they think deeper, they include others, they create an environment that people want to be a part of, where they can thrive and realize their dreams. And so I would say, kind of wrap this up, think about the title that'll always be with you, and that you own, and no one can influence it greater than you can. You CEOs of Nikama Inc. Let's join that club together, and I think by doing so, we can lift ourselves up and those that are around us, and as a greater community, we can make even Omaha even a more thriving community than what it already is. Thank you.